Tonight, lesson leadership class, Seeking Wisdom. We talked about disciplines being specific that we do on a regular basis. It's like if you're exercising, you do push-ups and you do sit-ups and you do jumping jacks, whatever. And so these are the disciplines of the Christian life so that we grow in our walk with Christ, we grow in our character that would be like Christ, and there's a dozen of them. And we've talked about Bible reading and scripture memory and giving. And so one of the disciplines is seeking wisdom. So in your notes, there's a lot of points tonight, and I'm going to go fast and tell fewer stories. And so write fast if you can do that. If you miss some blanks, I'll have these notes up here. You can come up and fill them in using the notes. Or you can go online this next week, and it'll be online. Number one, God is infinitely wise. God is infinitely wise. And we know that. If someone were to ask you and say, how wise is God? You would say, you can't measure it. He's infinitely wise. Romans 11:33, oh, the depth of the riches, both of the wisdom and knowledge of God. How unsearchable are his judgments and unfathomable his ways. For who has known the mind of the Lord, or who became his counselor, or who has first given to him that it might be paid back to him again? For from him and through him and to him are all things. To him be the glory forever and ever. All of God's creation is a result of his wisdom. And so part of wisdom is creativity, being able to design, to create. And so creation, as we look at everything around us, we're reminded of the wisdom of God. I've been at this last week, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, at the annual Pastors Prayer Summit at Cannon Beach. And the room in which we sit and pray is all glass on a wall that faces the ocean. And it's right on the beach, and so it's a fabulous view. And so I always get in the room early so I can get the chair closest to the window. And so even though I'm praying and listening to prayers, I'm looking out the window, imagining myself fishing out in the ocean. But the view is amazing, and it just continually reminds you of the wisdom of God to be able to create all of that. Number three, God gives his wisdom to people he has created in his image and in his likeness. So one of the cool things about you is that God made you, created you with a mind, with a brain that has a capacity to acquire wisdom. And it's an infinite capacity. We can become wiser and wiser and wiser. And we can do that because God made us that way, created us that way. And he is the one who will give us his wisdom, as we learn at 1 Kings 4:29. Now God gave Solomon wisdom. God gave Solomon wisdom and great discernment and breadth of mind like the sand that is on the seashore. So that's a lot. Wisdom, discernment, knowledge like the sand on the seashore. Solomon's wisdom surpassed the wisdom of all the sons of the east and all the wisdom of Egypt. Proverbs 2:6, for the Lord gives wisdom. The Lord gives wisdom. Daniel 1:17, and as for these 4 youths, God gave them knowledge and intelligence in every branch of literature and wisdom. And so God gave these individuals wisdom. Daniel 2:20, Daniel answered and said, let the name of God be blessed forever and ever, for wisdom and power belong to him. It is he who changes the times, the epochs. He removes kings and establishes kings. He gives wisdom to wise men. God, gives wisdom to wise men and knowledge to men of understanding. It is he who reveals the profound hidden things. He knows what is in the darkness, and light dwells with him. To you, O God of my fathers, I give thanks and praise, for you have given me wisdom and power. You have given me wisdom and power. Number 4, God has created us in his image and with minds that have the ability to think, reason, and acquire wisdom. So someday we're going to get our glorified body, and our body will be like Jesus. Our mind will be like that of Jesus. And so what we can do now will be amplified many times over in the way of thinking and reasoning and the wisdom we will have. So, a question. God gives wisdom. All wisdom comes from God. It's obvious when you walk through life, go to work, talk to neighbors, that some people are wise and some people are fools. What determines? What's the factor that causes God to give wisdom to this person, but not to this person? And if you're thinking, I'm kind of a dummy, why did you get left out? God gives wisdom. Is it arbitrary? Is it random? Is there some dice up in heaven that God rolls, and if your number comes up, he gives you wisdom? Number 5, God gives his wisdom to those who seek it diligently. The harder we seek it, the more he gives. Now, that's a basic rule of life. There's some things that I'll put in my notes over the years, and I'll identify them as this is one of those basic statements, simple, short, that's absolutely true, that we need to understand and remind ourselves regularly. God gives wisdom, and he gives it to those who seek it. And the more we seek it, the more he gives. Proverbs 2:2, make your ear attentive to wisdom. Incline your heart to understanding. If you cry for discernment, lift your voice for understanding. If you seek her, notice all the ifs. If, the conditional statements. If you seek her as silver, search for her as for hidden treasures, then, and I might add only then, will you discern the fear of the Lord and discover the knowledge of God. The Lord gives wisdom. From his mouth come knowledge and understanding. Proverbs 4:5, acquire wisdom, acquire understanding. Do not forget nor turn away from the words of my mouth. Do not forsake her. She will guard you. Love her. She will watch over you. The beginning of wisdom is acquire wisdom. And with all your acquiring, get understanding. Prize her, and she will exalt you. She will honor you if you embrace her. Proverbs 8:17, this is wisdom speaking, I love those who love me. Those who diligently seek me will find me. Those who diligently seek me will find me. And so the average individual has this idea that wisdom is sort of one of those things that just happens as you live. There's no real proactive choosing that I do or seeking that I do. It just sort of happens as I go through life, and that's not true at all. Number 6, wisdom is not automatic. We don't get wise by just living and having experiences. There are a lot of old fools running around. That was one of my dad's statements that he repeated often as he observed people. He would say to me, just because you get old doesn't mean you get wise. There's a lot of old fools running around. And so that is a very true statement. Living doesn't give you wisdom. Seeking wisdom gives you wisdom. Proverbs 1:22, how long, O naive ones, will you love simplicity? And scoffers delight themselves in scoffing, and fools hate knowledge. Proverbs 1:32, for the waywardness of the naive will kill them, and the complacency of fools shall destroy them. Number 7, wisdom is knowing the best and the right thing to do and say in every situation. So all day long, you're called on to make choices. All day long, you're called on to say words, to speak things to people. And in those situations where you choose to do this or to do that, there's the best. There's the best choice. In all the conversations you have, there's the best words. Wise people know what to do in every situation that God sovereignly puts them in. Wise people know what to say in every circumstance or situation that they are in. They know the right words to say. They know the right choices to make because they have wisdom. Proverbs 3:23, then you will walk in your way securely and your foot will not stumble. Proverbs 2:9, then you will discern righteousness and justice and equity and every good course. Every good course. You will know what to do in every situation. Number 8, when we are wise, many blessings come into our life. So it's a great Bible study to read through the first 10 chapters of Proverbs at least 10 times, and every time you see a blessing of some sort, write it down, make a list. And you'll see that there's about 20 to 25, depending on how you define some of them, blessings in those first 10 chapters of Proverbs that describe what happens to the person who acquires wisdom. Proverbs 3:13, how blessed Now, I think I've told you this before. There's about 50 blessings in the Bible, verses that say, blessed is the man, blessing. And then there's about 10, how blessed. And so when you're how blessed, that's really blessed. That's good blessed. That's ultimate blessed. How blessed is the man who finds wisdom, the man who gains understanding. Its profit is better than the profit of silver. Its gain than fine gold. She is more precious than jewels. Nothing you desire compares with her. Long life is in her right hand. In her left hand are riches and honor. Her ways are pleasant ways. All her paths are peace. She is a tree of life to those who take hold of her, and happy are all who hold her fast. If you're doing that assignment I just gave you, you got 10 of them almost right there in that passage. Proverbs 8:10, take my instruction, not silver, knowledge rather than choicest gold. Wisdom is better than jewels, and all desirable things cannot compare with her. Proverbs 8:14, counsel is mine, sound wisdom. I am understanding, power is mine. By me kings reign, rulers decree justice. By me princes rule, nobles, all who judge rightly. I love those who love me. Those who diligently seek me will find me. Riches and honor are with me, enduring wealth and righteousness. My fruit is better than gold, even pure gold. My yield than choicest silver. I walk in the way of righteousness in the midst of the paths of justice to endow those who love me with wealth that I may fill their treasuries. Proverbs 8:33, heed instruction, be wise, do not neglect it. Blessed is the man who listens to me, watching daily at my gates, waiting at my doorposts. For he who finds me finds life and obtains favor from the Lord. Obtains favor from the Lord. And so a discipline of life is to seek wisdom. If you don't choose to do that, it won't happen. It's a choice that we make, like choosing to read the Bible, choosing to memorize Bible verses, choosing to read a book. We choose to be those who seek after wisdom, because if we don't seek it like silver and gold, we'll not find it. Number 9, wise people are future-oriented because they have learned to connect their present behavior and decisions with future success in failure. So that is a statement that's a little bit big, awkward, but it's worth reading over and over. Circle it. So let's take kind of a weird example. You take your hand and you lay it on the bench and you hit it as hard as you can with a hammer. Nothing happens. Nothing happens. And you put the hammer down and you go on with life. A year later, your hand throbs with pain, turns black and blue, and you go into the doctor and he says, whoa, you broke several bones there. And he says, how did that happen? And you say, I have no clue. It just happened. Most of the things that we do and say have a delayed blessing and or a delayed consequence. Now, when you hit your hand with a hammer, it's immediate. That's why very few people do it twice. When our kids were growing up, we had a wood stove, and Patty would always fuss about them touching it and getting burned. And my comment was, they'll only do it once. So no sense of fussing about it. Why don't you just take them over there and put their hand on it and get it over with? And so because some things have immediate reward or consequence, then we learn wisdom quickly. Wisdom is understanding, if I do this, this will happen. If I do this, this will happen. The problem is that most things, when we do this, the reward or the consequence doesn't happen for a month, 6 months, a year. And we don't connect the dots. The consequence or the reward we experience over here, because we don't connect the dots, don't connect to what it is that we did in the past, we don't learn. And if it's a negative thing, we blame it on something, somebody. If it's a positive thing, it's just good luck. Everything we do without exception, everything we say without exception has a reward or a consequence. Most of those are delayed. And so wise people can connect. They know that if they hit their hand with a hammer, it's going to hurt really bad, even if it doesn't happen for a year. And sometimes even when people know, they don't care because, that's a year. Who cares about what happens in a year? And so, again, Proverbs calls those individuals fools. Galatians 6:7, do not be deceived. God is not mocked. Whatever, that means everything. Whatever a man sows, this he will also reap. Every word, every action, every choice is a seed that we are planting. And it will grow up and have fruit. And we will reap the harvest of that crop in the days ahead. But because we don't recognize that we're having all these weed seeds because we planted weed seeds, we don't stop planting weed seeds. We just keep doing it because it's my neighbor's fault. It's the government's fault. It's my mother-in-law's fault. It's somebody's fault, but we don't understand that everything we do, everything we say, every choice we make is planting a seed, and we will reap the harvest of that sowing that we do. Do not be deceived. God is not mocked. Whatever a man sows, that's what he will reap. I've told you this before, but it's one of my favorite stories. When the kids were all home and little, every year when we planted a garden, we would have this little thing that we did, and they knew we were going to do it because I had done it every year, but it was a good reminder. I would take some bean seeds and put them in my hand, and I'd say, see these? We're going to plant these, and corn's going to come up. And they'd say, no, Dad, you don't get corn from bean seeds. Really? What do you get? Beans. Every time? Every time. And then I would take a corn seed and I'd say, see this corn seed? This is a magic corn seed. When we plant it, we're going to get 6 plants. And they'd say, no, Dad, you don't get 6 plants from one seed. You get 1 plant. Always? Always. You plant a bean seed, you get a bean plant. You plant a corn seed, you get a corn plant. Always. No exceptions. And in life, it's the same thing. You say this, this is going to happen. You do this, this is going to happen. Wise people know that, and so they discipline themselves to say the right words, do the right things, so that what they reap in the future is good things, not bad things. But because we don't connect the dots and we don't ever learn what we do this will happen, we keep doing it. We keep doing it over and over and over again because we don't recognize that consequence comes as a result of our seeds that we plant. Now, it's not the only reason we have negative things happen in our life. There are some that are just simply sovereign choices of God because negative things happen to everybody, but it is the major reason. Good things and bad things happen because of what we do and what we have done in the past. Proverbs 1:31, so they shall eat of the fruit of their own way, be satiated with their own devices. Isaiah 3:10, say to the righteous that it will go well with them, for they will eat the fruit of their actions. They will eat the fruit of their actions. Psalms 128:1, how blessed is everyone who fears the Lord, who walks in his ways. When you shall eat of the fruit of your hands, you will be happy, it will be well with you. Number 10, wise people have learned to think about, identify what they want in the future so that they will know what to do today to make their future desires and dreams a reality. So if you know what a bean seed is and you like beans, you plant beans. If you know what a corn seed is and you don't like corn, then you don't plant it. If you know what a radish seed looks like and you hate radishes, you don't plant them. You plant whatever you want to happen in the future in the sense of your plans, your activities, and your goals. That's the beauty of goals. Goals are based on what you want to happen next week, next month, next year, 5 years, 10 years from now. I have some goals that I have written out for when I'm 88. So that's a dozen years away. What do I want to have happen when I'm 88? So I make some goals that will promote that, cause that, bring that about in my life as far as I know from the wisdom I have. We would feed calves on the dairy, and Dad would say, you know, if we treat these calves well, feed them the best feed we have, they will grow up to be our top producers. If we feed them cheap hay because they're just calves, they will grow up and be some of our poor producers. And then he would say, what you do today shows up in the milk tank tomorrow. And that's wisdom. 11, wisdom is being able to identify the different kinds of seeds. You know what a weed seed looks like? You know what a corn seed looks like? In the sense of your actions, your words, your goals. 12 wise people have learned that the time between planting the seed, harvesting the crop is often long and requires faithfulness and endurance. So that's one of the reasons why we are often poor at identifying seeds, because there's a delay between planting and harvesting. And so, again, we don't connect the dot, and we don't have the wisdom to know that we plant this seed, this will happen, because it's 6 months away. And we think somebody else planted the seed or grew by magic or something. Galatians 6:9, let us not lose heart in doing good, for in due time we will reap if we do not grow weary. In due time we will reap if we do not grow weary. One of the reasons when I talk about goal setting is that when you write a goal, one of the reasons you do that is so that you will do it faithfully, regularly, for a long time, for at least a year, whatever it is you're doing. If it's a Bible reading goal, a scripture memory goal, a book reading goal, whatever it is, you make a goal to do it, you read the goal regularly to maintain that discipline, so the results of the benefits that come from that goal, you will realize because you keep doing it. For quite a few years, we planted a garden in the spring, and we never harvested anything from our garden. The reason is because I would go fishing and bicycling, and Patty would go to her families and go to grandkids, and weeds would grow up and engulf the crop, and pretty soon there was no garden. It was just a weed patch. So we were pretty good about planting it, but we weren't very good at maintaining it and weeding it and watering it and taking care of it, and therefore we didn't get much crop. Same thing true of many people's goals. They make one and they don't pursue it diligently, faithfully, and they don't harvest the crop of it. 13 wise people have learned that almost any future dream is accomplishable if present requirements are accurately identified and faithfully done. Now that's another point you put a circle around, put stars around it, have arrows pointing to it. That's the basic law of life. You can accomplish almost anything if you know what needs to be done today in order to have it realized in the future. 14, as we grow in wisdom, we will accomplish more and more significant things. We will become successful. So I don't know how many times I've heard people comment about someone that was successful in life, whether it was in their occupation, in sports, in finances, whatever it was, and they attributed it to luck, being at the right place at the right time. So success in life comes to the person who plants good seeds and maintains those seeds. Proverbs 3:19, the Lord by wisdom founded the earth. By understanding he established the heavens. By his knowledge the deeps were broken up, the skies drip with dew. 15 wise people have learned the power of making commitments and goals that will bring future success. And so your goal is you're writing what you need to do today, tomorrow, next week, next month in order to acquire or accomplish something of significance in a year or 5 years. Did you know one of the activities, disciplines that many people are very weak in because there's not immediate answers is prayer? Most often when we look at what prayer is in the Bible, it's a force. It's not a please pass the potatoes. We are praying and God commissions and energizes angels. Daniel prayed for 21 days before the answer for his prayer came. And often it's longer than that. And so several years ago, we were at a 5-day prayer event, and I had opportunity to give a little talk. And I said, did you know that what we're doing in this room for 10 hours a day for 5 days, we probably won't see the results of it, at least for a year, and maybe 2 years, maybe 5 years. And because we don't see it happen tomorrow, then we grow weak in our faith. And we don't identify the things that come into our life or into the life of our church as a result of praying that happened last year, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 5 years ago. It's the consistent running the race with endurance, not growing weary in well-doing, that brings about a great harvest from God. 16, wisdom will keep us from sin because we will understand the consequences of that sin. Do not be deceived. God is not mocked. Whatever you sow, that's what you will reap. Bad choices result in negative things happening in your life. When I was a senior in high school, I ran track. I ran track all through high school, but my senior year is when I ran against a guy named Bon Bullock. I think I've told you this story before, but I was the utility guy on our track team. We had a little school. We only had 12 kids, boys, in the entire high school. And so we would compete against other schools that were our size, and often there would only be 2 people in an event. And you got points for 3. So the coach would look at all the events and see which ones had 2 people and would put me in those events. I was a guaranteed 3rd place. And so one time, he put me in the mile. There was only 2 people running the mile. One of them was a guy named Bon Bullock. Have you ever heard of anybody getting lapped in the mile? Doesn't normally happen. I got lapped in the mile by Bon Bullock. He was in another school near ours. He was a senior, and he broke the Washington State record for the mile for high school students that year. He had a full ride scholarship to Washington State to run the mile. Guy could run like a deer. I mean, I didn't realize I was getting lapped, and I'm just sort of going along at my Duke Shuffle, and I heard him yell behind me, "Get out of the way!" I was startled me, and poof, there he went. I got quite a bit of ribbing from that, from my friends. Have you ever heard of anybody getting lapped in the mile? He got lapped in the mile, huh? So, a couple of months later, Bon Bullock was supposed to graduate, and he went out. He did graduate, but he went out on a party and got into a car, and he got in a wreck, and he had both his legs amputated. And my dad said to me, now understand something from that event. He said, that wasn't just an accident. That was an accident that resulted from some bad choices. And he said, when you make bad choices, you set yourself up for accidents that will cause great damage in your life for most of your life. And I've never forgotten that. Here was the kid that had the world in his hand. And one poor choice, it was all gone. Proverbs 2:10, wisdom will enter your heart, knowledge will be pleasant to your soul, discretion will guard you, understanding will watch over you to deliver you from the way of evil. To deliver you from the way of evil. 17, wisdom will bring great confidence and security, peace and freedom from worry and fear. When we have wisdom, we know we're making right choices. And we know that right choices result in blessing. We know that right choices result in success. We know that right choices end up in good relationships. So because we know that, and we've acquired wisdom, we live our life with a sense of confidence, not arrogance or pride, but we know what we're doing. We know how to live life. We know how to choose the right thing. We know how to say the right thing. Proverbs 1:33, he who listens to me shall live securely. He shall be at ease from the dread of evil. Proverbs 3:17, her ways are pleasant ways, all her paths are peace. Proverbs 3:23, then you will walk in your ways securely, and your foot will not stumble. When you lie down, you will not be afraid. When you lie down, your sleep will be sweet. Do not be afraid of sudden fear, nor of the onslaught of the wicked when it comes. 18, wisdom will bring financial security and prosperity into our lives so that we can meet our own needs, help many others in their need, and help the work of God financially. There's probably few areas that are as connected to wisdom as our financial security is. Poor choices because of foolishness in the area of finance will always result in financial consequences, and vice versa. Proverbs 3:16, long life is in her right hand, in her left hand are riches and honor. Proverbs 8:18, riches and honor are with me, enduring wealth and righteousness. 19, a tremendous sense of joy comes into the person's heart with wisdom. Wisdom is the foundation of all the character traits. Proverbs 3:18, she is a tree of life to those who take hold of her. Happy are all who hold her fast. Proverbs 3:22, so they will be life to your soul, adornment to your neck. Proverbs 4:8, prize her, she will exalt you, she will honor you if you embrace her. She will place on your head a garland of grace, she will present you with a crown of beauty. Talking about wisdom. Proverbs 8:35, for he who finds me finds life and obtains favor from the Lord. Obtains favor from the Lord. You become one of God's favorites when you acquire wisdom and you live by wisdom. 20, those with wisdom become powerful influencers of other people. They become successful and good leaders. That's leaders of family, leaders of churches, leaders of business, leaders of community. In every area of life, there are those who are good leaders, wise leaders, and those that are not. Proverbs 8:14, counsel is mine, sound wisdom. I am understanding, power is mine. By me kings reign, rulers decree justice. By me princes rule, and nobles, all who judge rightly. 21, God gives wisdom to those who are humble enough to seek it diligently from others who will teach them. Wisdom seekers are always learning. So I would say that the biggest barrier to wisdom in the average person's life, especially a young person, is pride. Because you get wisdom from other people. If you're only going to get it from experience, you're going to have to live longer than you're going to live probably in order to acquire much. And so wise people acquire wisdom. They seek wisdom. They get it from others. My dad was not a believer until 2 weeks before he died, but he was probably the wisest person I think I've ever known in my life. And I'm not sure why. People have asked me how he got it, where he got it. I don't know. But he certainly was. And he was always teaching wisdom. Basic, do this, this happens. Do this, that happens. And farming was always a key illustration that he had. And so our dairy was on a part of a DHIA program. That stands for Dairy Herd Improvement Association. And all the dairies in the Pacific Northwest that were in this association, which were most of them, would have a tester show up to their dairy once a month, unannounced. And they would weigh the milk from every cow, take a butterfat sample, and then they would get in the mail a document that gave the predicted 305-day production for every cow in the herd. And then there would be another piece of paper with the average herd production ranked. Every herd was on there top to bottom, according to their predicted production for a year. And so Dad would have me call the number one dairy, if it wasn't one that we had gone to already, make an appointment for a tour. And then we would drive there, and on the way there, I would have a yellow legal pad. He would say, what questions are we going to ask when we get there? And he would say one, and I'd say one, I'd write them down, and we would go and spend a day at this dairy, getting a tour, asking questions, why they were the number one dairy in the Pacific Northwest. And on the way home, then Dad would say, what one thing are we going to change? Don't want to get carried away and change too many things. Just pick one thing that we learned today that we can put into practice on our dairy. And so we would talk about it, and then we would pick it out, and then we would come up with a strategy. What's the first thing we're going to do? Second thing we're going to do? How are we going to implement this, make it happen? And then he's famous saying, what you do today makes a difference in how much milk is in the tank tomorrow. And I always liked doing this because we always stopped and got hamburgers and milkshake. And but it was a every month experience with my dad, learning from those who were successful. I had two mentors as a pastor. One of them was Joe Aldridge, who had pastored started a church in Southern California that was the fastest growing church in the United States for 5 years running. He was president of Multnomah in Portland. And so I used to go out to lunch with him about once a month. The first time I went and asked how often I could go see him, I thought that he said, as much as you want. I said, well, aren't there lots of other guys doing this? He said, you're the only one. You're the only pastor who's ever called me up and said, can I go out to lunch with you and ask you questions? I thought, that's crazy. So, worked out fine because then I had lots of access. It wasn't monthly, but it was probably 6 or 7 times a year that I got together with him. And I'd always go with a list of questions, and as he talked, I always took notes about what to do. And so the more you seek it from those who have it, the faster you'll get it. It doesn't matter whether you're raising your kids, if it's your marriage, if you're managing your finances, if it's a particular business you have, look around, find those who are doing better and ask questions. It's only prideful people who don't do that. Proverbs 1:5, a wise man will hear and increase in learning. Proverbs 1:20, wisdom shouts in the street. She lifts her voice in the square. At the head of the noisy street, she cries out. At the entrance of the gates in the city, she utters her sayings. Proverbs 2:2, make your ear attentive to wisdom, incline your heart to understanding. Proverbs 4:13, take hold of instruction, do not let go, guard her, she is your life. Proverbs 8:33, heed instruction, be wise, do not neglect it. 22, when we make bad choices in life, reproofs will follow. That's just the law of life. You plant a bad seed, you'll reap a bad crop. Reproofs will follow. Reproof will come from others, from life, from God. Humbly learning from those reproofs is a major source of wisdom. So you learn from your mistakes. The problem with most people is they blame their mistakes on others. Psalms 39:11, with reproofs you chasten a man. Psalms 141:5, let the righteous smite me in kindness, reprove me. It's oil upon the head, do not let my head refuse it. Proverbs 1:25, you did not want my reproof. I will even laugh at your calamity, will mock when your dread comes. Proverbs 1:30, they spurned all my reproofs, so they shall eat of the fruit of their own way, be satiated with their own devices. Proverbs 3:11, my son, do not reject the discipline of the Lord or loathe his reproof. For whom the Lord loves, he reproves, even as a father the son in whom he delights. How blessed is the man who finds wisdom, the man who gains understanding. Proverbs 6:23, the commandment is a lamp, the teaching is light, reproofs for discipline are the way of life. Proverbs 9:8, reprove a wise man, he will love you. Proverbs 10:17, he who forsakes reproof goes astray. Proverbs 12:1, he who hates reproof is stupid. I like that one. Proverbs 13:18, poverty and shame will come to him who neglects discipline. He who regards reproof will be honored. Proverbs 15:12, a scoffer does not love one who reproves him. He will not go to the wise. Proverbs 15:31, he whose ear listens to life-giving reproof will dwell among the wise. Proverbs 29:1, a man who hardens his neck after much reproof will suddenly be broken beyond remedy. 23, wise people know the importance of learning and cooperating with God's laws and principles to succeed in life. So the Bible is a book of wisdom. It's the mind of Christ, and it's full of principles that will guide you through life. There's a book written entitled The 10 Laws of Prosperity. The guy who wrote it is one of the very top investors in the world, makes more money for his clients than anybody. He's a Jewish guy. And all the 10 laws in the book he got from the book of Proverbs. And they're fairly simple little laws that he observed in the book of Proverbs. One of his laws is don't invest in a company that has a fat president. You wouldn't invest in my company, I guess, because Proverbs says a gluttonous man will come to ruin. And so he's collected those, and he uses those for his decision-making in the area of finance, and he's a very wealthy man, and he's made other people very wealthy as well. Psalms 119:1, how blessed are those whose way is blameless, who walk in the law of the Lord. Psalms 119:15, I will meditate on your precepts, regard your ways, I shall delight in your statutes, I shall not forget your word. 24, basic requirement to acquire godly wisdom is to faithfully read the Bible. Faithfully read the Bible. Psalms 119:97, oh, how I love your law. It is my meditation all the day. Your commandments make me wiser than my enemies. They are ever mine. I have more insight than all my teachers, for your testimonies are my meditation. I understand more than the aged because I have observed your precepts. 25, a major source of instruction and knowledge is good books. Those who are wisdom seekers are disciplined readers. One of the things that I rejoice in as a grandfather as we visit our kids. We got back here a couple of weeks from visiting our daughter that lives in Hawaii, and our son and daughter and son-in-law and their 6 kids came down from Fairbanks at the same time. So there were 9 grandkids there, and it was such a delight to see them whenever they had a spare moment. Instead of playing computer games, they were reading a book, and all of them were reading books, and so I was acquiring often what book they were reading. 26, a great blessing for growing in wisdom is growing in the ability to know what God's will is for our lives. Those who are wise will know what God's will is. Wise people will figure it out quickly. 27, as we grow in wisdom, we grow more careful about our choices because we understand our choices have consequences and rewards, so we think them through. But we also become more confident and decisive in our decision-making. The reason is because we've acquired wisdom. Because of that wisdom, we make right choices, and we know that they're right. We're not guessing. 28, those who are wise will keep away from all immoral behavior. Those who are wise will keep away from all immoral behavior because they know the future consequences of that behavior. Now, as you read the book of Proverbs, which is a book of cause and effect, I remember when my son Seth came to me, and the kids all read. I paid them to read the Bible, and they read the book of Proverbs a chapter a day. And he said to me, Dad, Proverbs talks a lot about prostitutes. And I said, pay attention when you read that. You may not think you're old enough that it applies to you now, but you won't be that far away from it. Pay attention and notice the consequences of being immoral, making wrong choices. Our world does that constantly. I mean, everybody does it because, what does it matter? God is the one who made the rules. God's the one who brings the consequences into our life. And just because the world decides something isn't wrong doesn't mean there won't be consequences from it. Proverbs 2:10, wisdom will enter your heart, knowledge will be pleasant to your soul, discretion will guard you, understanding will watch over you, to deliver you from the way of evil, from the man who speaks perverse things, from those who leave the paths of uprightness to walk in the ways of darkness, who delight in doing evil and rejoice in the perversity of evil, whose paths are crooked and who are devious in their ways, to deliver you from the strange woman, from the adulteress who flatters with her words, that leaves the companion of her youth, forgets the covenant of her God, for her house sinks down to death, her tracks lead to the dead. And so as you read through Proverbs, the first 10 chapters especially, you will see repeated about 6 different times the consequences that come into the life of the individual who makes choices that are immoral. 29, those who diligently seek God's wisdom daily will be honored and favored by God and other people. To be honored and favored by other people, not for what they own, what they have, but because of the wisdom that they have. Proverbs 3:4, so you will find favor and good repute in the sight of God and man. Proverbs 3:35, the wise will inherit honor. Fools display dishonor. Proverbs 8:35, for he who finds me finds life, obtains favor from the Lord. Luke 22:52, Jesus kept increasing in wisdom and stature and favor with God and man. Number 30, wise people have learned what to say and how to say it to different kinds of people in every situation so that they are edified. That is, the people they speak to are edified. So we had some simple 1- and 2-word commands for our kids as they were little growing up. One of them was talk right. Talk right. And so James says if you can control your tongue, you can control your entire body. And so as parents, our goal was to get our kids to talk right, to talk with discipline, to say words that edified, that built people up, that didn't insult or hurt. Proverbs 12:18, there is one who speaks rashly like the thrust of a sword, but the tongue of the wise brings healing. Proverbs 16:23, the heart of the wise teaches his mouth, adds persuasiveness to his lips. Pleasant words are a honeycomb, sweet to the soul, healing to the bones. 31, wise people will be kind people. That was another 2-word commandment. Be nice. Be nice. Proverbs 3:3, do not let kindness and truth leave you. Bind them around your neck. Write them on the tablet of your heart. James 3:13 through 17, who among you is wise and understanding? Let him show by his good behavior his deeds, his deeds in the gentleness of wisdom. But if you have bitter jealousy and selfish ambition in your heart, do not be arrogant and so lie against the truth. This wisdom is not that which comes down from above, but is earthly, natural, demonic. For where jealousy and selfish ambition exist, there is disorder in every evil thing. But the wisdom from above is pure, peaceable, gentle, reasonable, full of mercy and good fruits, unwavering, without hypocrisy. 32, wisdom is the number 1 requirement to be a good parent and to have a great marriage. So as a parent, you have wisdom, you'll raise good kids. If you're a husband, you'll have a good marriage. A wife, wisdom is what contributes to relationship health. Because you know what to do, you know what to say, you know what not to say. Proverbs 3:3, do not let kindness, I read that one. Proverbs 4:1, hear, O son, the instruction of a father. Give attention that you may gain understanding. For I give you sound teaching, do not abandon my instruction. When I was a son to my father, tender and the only son in the sight of my mother, then he taught me and said to me, let your heart hold fast my words, keep my commandments and live. Proverbs 24:3, by wisdom a house is built. By understanding, it is established. By knowledge, the rooms are filled with all precious and pleasant riches. 33, those who seek after wisdom diligently will have a much bigger payday at the judgment seat of Christ. We will all stand before Christ at the end of our life and give an account and be recompensed, rewarded for what we've done with our life. Some will receive no rewards, some will receive a ton of rewards. The level of wisdom that we have as we live life is going to be a major factor in how much we receive at the judgment seat of Christ. 2 Corinthians 5:10, we must all appear before the judgment seat of Christ, that each one may be recompensed for his deeds in the body according to what he has done, whether good or bad. 34, a fool is a person who has a low view of wisdom. They do not realize the value of having wisdom for the value of having wisdom or the consequence of not having it. We gave our kids assignments, Bible study assignments, and one of them was to read through Proverbs and write down all the references where the word fool is used, and then to make observations about what a fool was and how they acted. Proverbs 1:7, fools despise wisdom and instruction. 122, how long, O naive ones, will you love simplicity, and scoffers delight themselves with scoffing? Fools hate knowledge. Proverbs 1:32, the complacency of fools shall destroy them. Proverbs 12:15, the way of a fool is right in his own eyes. 35, a fool believes that they know enough to get by. They believe that they know as much as most other people. So my dad's definition of a fool was a know-it-all. You couldn't teach them anything because they thought they already knew it all. Proverbs 18:2, a fool does not delight in understanding, but only in revealing his own mind. Proverbs 14:16, a wise man is cautious and turns away from evil. A fool is arrogant and careless. 36, a naive person. These are words that are used in Proverbs. The word fool, the word naive. A naive person makes little connection between sowing and reaping. They think successful people became successful because they were favored. They had an unfair advantage. They were lucky. Proverbs 1:22, how long, O naive ones, will you love simplicity? Proverbs 1:32, the waywardness of the naive will kill them. Proverbs 14:15, the naive believes everything. Proverbs 22:3, the prudent sees the evil and hides himself, but the naive go on and are punished for it. Another word that's used in Proverbs a lot is the word scoffer. 37, a scoffer is a person who, when someone tries to teach, reprove, or correct them, says, I know, I already got it. The first time I said that to my dad, when he started to teach me something, when I said, I know, I cleaned calf stalls for months. And if I ever said it again, I probably would have still be cleaning them. There's just certain things you never said to my dad, and one of them was, I know. I got on my kids about that early on. And I remember when my son Seth was coaching basketball, high school basketball, he said, Dad, there's a whole lot of fools on my basketball team. I said, what do you mean? He said, every time I try to teach them something, they say, I know. I say, yeah, isn't that too bad? They'll grow up someday and amount to nothing because they already knew everything and couldn't be taught anything. Proverbs 13:1, a scoffer does not listen to rebuke or correction. 15:12, a scoffer does not love one who reproves him. He will not go to the wise. 38, we made it. God is not obligated to bail us out of the consequences of bad choices if we have not sought after wisdom with diligence. So one of my observations is that there are a lot of people asking for prayer about situations that they are in because of choices that they have made. And so my thought is, and because they're probably one who is not going to receive instruction well, I don't tell them that. But I think to myself, that's a prayer that's not going to get answered. God doesn't bail us out of consequences that we have created by our poor choices because of our failure to seek knowledge and wisdom and understanding. So that's a great principle to teach our kids and our grandkids. If you don't seek wisdom and make right choices, you'll have consequences come into your life. You can pray for those until you're blue in the face, and God will not bail you out of them. Proverbs 1:20, wisdom shouts in the street. She lifts her voice in the square. At the head of the noisy street, she cries out. At the entrance of the gates in the city, she utters her sayings. How long, O naive ones, will you love simplicity, and scoffers delight themselves in scoffing, and fools hate knowledge? Turn to my reproof. Behold, I will pour out my spirit on you. I'll make my words known to you. Because I called and you refused, I stretched out my hand and no one paid attention, and you neglected all my counsel, did not want my reproof. I will even laugh at your calamity. I will mock when your dread comes like a storm, and your calamity comes on like a whirlwind, when distress and anguish come on you. Then they will call on me, but I will not answer. Then they will seek me diligently, but they shall not find me, because they hated knowledge. They did not choose the fear of the Lord. They would not accept my counsel. They spurned all my reproof, so they shall eat of the fruit of their own way, be satiated with their own devices. The waywardness of the naive will kill them. The complacency of fools shall destroy them. But he who listens to me shall live securely and shall be at ease from the dread of evil. So if you have any influence in your kids or grandkids or great-grandkids, one of the things that in your head you need to think is, I can give wisdom. I might have to work at it, but the more wisdom my offspring get, the better they will do in life. And often they don't get it in school. And so I like to give it when I can, where I can, here, there, wherever. And I recognize some people learn and some people don't. And that's life. And that verse that I just read describes those that don't learn. They will constantly be in turmoil, in a state of failure, in consequences, in bad situations, and they will blame everybody. And they will very rarely learn anything. Ushers are coming. I'm going to pray, and then we'll pass those cards out, and you can fill them in and put them in the offering plate. Lord Jesus, thank you for giving us a mind that like yours, creating us in your image and in your likeness. Thank you that you give wisdom, but you give it to those who seek it diligently. And the more we seek, the more you give. I pray that we would be those who learn how to give wisdom to others, whether they're friends or neighbors or work associates, but especially family, that we would learn how to speak words that give wisdom. And it's the main thing, Lord, is what brings success in our life. It's what allows us to be used by you to influence people, to have great marriages, to raise good kids. I pray that we would all be wisdom seekers all of our lives. We love you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.